What's up, everybody? How you doing? This is the Front Door Show. This is week 4. I think it's almost a month. Almost a month. We've been doing this, and today I have my good friend John Hernandez. So what I do normally with the show is that I tell all my guests, just in case people don't know who you are, John. Surprisingly, some people might not know who you are because there's so many people that come in and want to check it out. Go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of give you your intro, and then while you're doing your intro, I'm going to go ahead and start inviting people to watch parties and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you, Angelo, for having me on. I appreciate it. My name is John Hernandez. Grew up, born and raised in Pilsen, specifically 17th and Wood. We moved to Little Village, grew up there. Got to know both Little Village and Pilsen as a young boy and teenager. I went to grammar school, John Spry School. Later on, went to Canoon Magnet School. And what I'm leading up to is how I became a DJ in grade school at Canoon Magnet School.
Okay.
That's just a little the intro.
Okay. Okay. Here's something. What inspired you as a DJ? What was there somebody there? Was there's a group of people? Was there, because talking to a lot of DJs, it a lot of people tell me it was haversack that it happened, like just by accident, and it became something that like a wow. I'm like, okay, I'll try this. Did that happen with you?
Well, it happened by chance. As we all heard the stories of all the DJs that everybody used to listen to the Hot Mix 5 back then in 1980, and became inspired. Well, for me, it happened in 7th grade at Canoon Magnet School, which was on 22nd 100 South Kedzie. It was around, I was in 7th grade. So we were looking at 1981, when we had a school party, 7th grade party. I forgot what the party was for. Some of my classmates, were playing around with the whole DJ equipment thing at the time. They brought their equipment to the party at one of our, I think it was like in our break room. Our lunchroom or so. And it was Hugo Mercado, Jose De La Fuente,
Wow.
George Martinez, that I went to school with, and they brought their equipment and they were playing music, and I was standing on the sidelines, and I seen all the kids, amazed on what turntables were, because we didn't know. At that time it was really brand new for us. We only heard it on the radio. And so these guys are playing, right? And he has all the kids surrounding them and everything. And I'm like, I want that kind of attention, And little did I know that that's what all DJs want, is attention. And at that time, I wanted that attention. They were my classmates, which then we became more close friends. And Hugo actually lived about a block away from me. I lived on Marshall Boulevard at the time, 23rd Marshall Boulevard. Hugo lived on Sacramento and 22nd. So he would practice out of his garage all the time, and invited me to come over, and he would show me how to hold the record and count, and he taught me how to count my beats and match and beat match, and all the breaks, and that's where it started. That's how it started, 1981.
All right, and then you're DJing basically was a garage or in his room or whatever you are. Where do you go from there? Where's your first gig of first? Did you school? Was it mobile? Was it what do you what would be your first actually being on the turntables?
Well, that's it. It's so long ago, because I was 14 when I started to. It took me several months to to get the hang of it and you know and mix without having too many problems. But our first gigs were some of our was probably, I think it was our 8th grade party at Canoon, where I did a little set there when they were invited back to do our graduation party. And that was pretty much our first gig in 1982. And after that, if everybody was familiar with the early 80s house parties, this was when it really started happening in that era. And we would get a couple of basement parties, and I would travel with Hugo and George and Jose De La Fuente, which later they became Import Sounds, and just hang out with those guys and learn the ropes. And
Right. So that was your introduction to DJing, house parties. What happens to you right after that?
well, I was watching the Pablo Gonzalez show with you, and I seen how he talked about playing with his parents' turntables that were not really like made to DJ. I got the same story. I'm sure all of us DJs in the early 80s have the same story. My parents had turntables in the house, record players, not even turntable, they were record players. And I would get these 2 turntables and put them side by side from each other. And I would be playing one song. I had a few albums, and I should say 45s. I remember one of them being the Tom Tom Club, and another one being Illusions, Imagination. And I'm over here trying to do my best to hold my finger and play with the record and try to make it beat match. And good times. Those are good memories. I think I broke the turntables because it had like a band on it or something like that. Yeah. But and this is all happening in the address of 2338 Marshall Boulevard. I got a story that I'll tell you later on about that same address and how I knew I was going to be a DJ for a long time after that.
All right. So in 81, you're DJing. That was about the time when I created the Floor Masters, the breakdancing group. Am I correct?
Yeah, I was about 14, but I don't think I met you just yet.
Okay.
I think
You came.
I came a little bit later. But if you want to jump into that story.
Well, I mean that because you were a DJ, you were a neighborhood DJ at this point, right?
Yeah.
When you because I and you got to remember it was tough for me because I'm dealing with 125 members at the time. So when people tell me they were a floor master, I was like, you were, unless you were like the 5 main guys that were, or six main
Sure.
guys that were there always, it was, but if just in case, if anybody didn't know how I worked it, is that there were 6 guys that we were like the main guys, and it branched off. The 6 guys were taught the routine, and those 6 guys grabbed 12 to 15 guys and taught them guys the routine. And it was a domino effect, trickle down, and we would practice, I don't know, Sunday through Thursday type of thing. And,
Yeah.
and it would be just tons of people there. Oh my God, it was so, remember, it was full house. And when we had a reunion and you had told me that you were a floor master, it's like, well, because I know Martine, one of my partners in the breakdancing, was always grabbing new guys, always, and always you guys. So who brought you into the breakdancing aspect of it, of you being a floor masters?
I was friends with Barbara and Kathy.
Okay.
Okay, and they lived right.
By the way, they said hello. They're online right now. They're online. Said hello.
How you guys doing? Yeah, and I forget how I became friends with them, but they had mentioned about the floor masters practicing at the boys club down the block from where they lived. And me and my cousin Jimmy, who used to hang out with them, said, you know, well, at the time it was becoming a really big thing in the early 80s. And I believe by the time I met you, it was probably 84. I was about 16, 17 years old. And so we went to go try out. We went to the boys club on 19th and Levitt, and you were there with your yellow and baby blue, or was it aqua blue colors, the floor master colors? You were wearing some jumpsuit, and there was about 20 other members already there, and we had to come up with some little breakdance set so that we can impress you guys and join up. So my cousin Jimmy, who was really good at pop locking, he did all that stuff, and he was really good at that. I was more of the floor guy. I did, you know, all the pennies and the helicopters, and you know, you name it, all the footwork. And we
So
did
the helicopter was so the helicopter was already out, because I remember at one point, and I don't know if you were pre-helicopter days, because just to be fair to the girls in this, when we first started out, it was both freestyle dancing and breakdancing. And breakdancing wasn't fully it. And then when we did the shows after the Phil Donahue show, and we were working at the Sabre Room in the Park West, we incorporated girls dancing, freestyle dancing, and then obviously the breakdancing. So it was both. That's how come Barbara and Kathy were involved, and Vanessa and Sylvia and all the girls we had our core girls that would do their routines. And it was just not just guys doing breakdancing. But I think it was right after the Phil Donahue show.
I remember.
If I remember right, I was the first one to do the windmill in Chicago per se, and that was and that became the explosion of it per se of the breakdancing scene, because all of a sudden now we're doing the windmill, we're doing and you mentioned about dime stopping. In case people don't know what that is, you could Google it. It's a whole other aspect of dancing for break dancers. I just remember that was like, I think that was where it was, a lot of things were getting discovered, and they were calling names to a lot of these routines or these dance moves, or should I say breakdancing moves and stuff like that.
Right.
So so if you're talking about the dime stopping, then you did come in a little bit later, not late, but a little later, where we had established our, you know, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, the bar mitzvahs that we were doing on Sundays and stuff like that. How long did you break dance for? With because I know at one point I left, and and then Martin took over. But how long do? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think for about a year, because Martin was more of our go-to guy and our instructor, and he would, you know, show us moves, any new moves that came out, you know, that were at the time we called fresh. You know, he would be the guy that showed us the moves, or we would prepare, you know, our practice for our next gig. Wherever we had to perform. I think we performed for the mayor at one time downtown. I'm not sure if you were there or not. My memory's bad, but I think you were there. You remember performing for the mayor back then in the 80s? I think it was
at one point. I think at one point, I mean, just like what I do in DJing is what happens is that I got kind of like, I don't want to do this. Let you guys do it. You know, I was still the head guy, but I was kind of like, okay, well, I do a lot of the choreography, but it was always like, okay, since you came up with that, then you do it. Since you came up with that, you're going to do it. I'm not going to do everything, because it would, I wear and tear my body apart. You know, even though I was a young kid, I think I was at the time 17 or 18 at the time. And I was just, or maybe a little older, 19. But I just remember that I would let the guys, you know, just kind of the same thing I do with my DJ team is like, yeah, I'm the head guy, but I'm not always breakdancing. So probably I was there. If I could say in front of the mayor, it's a blur to me, because we performed in front of so many officials in Chicago.
Yeah.
God, it was incredible. Maybe Kathy or Barbara knows and stuff like that, or anybody else. Lisa, she's hopefully she's watching as well.
Yeah, I remember
One of,
Lisa.
one of,
Uh,
so that was the lady. What was it? What was her breakdancing name that she went by?
oh my God.
I remember she
Wasn't
was
it Lady Lisa or something like that? Or
she'll let me know, but I know she was a really good, like one of the first female breakdancers, like really
yeah,
breakdancing females. And so you did that for a year, and did you hold off to DJing, or were you DJing and breakdancing at the same time?
I was kind of doing both at the same time, but because breakdancing was so new at that time, it was fascinating. It was um, learning new moves all the time. I think I spent a lot more time at friends' house practicing. We used to go to this one place over Racine, some corner store, 19th and Racine around in the basement, and I was hanging out with some guys called the Breakazoids, and I kind of hung out with them for a while. One of them was Gino. He was one of the Breakazoids, I remember, and that's where I had learned how to do, you know, doing the penny, taking off my shoes or taking off my sweater at the same time, spinning, and later after that, we tried out for DTR in K-Town down the Rock with Timmy. Timmy was one of our friends, personal friends, and Donald. And we tried out for them, and me and my cousin Jimmy, I say we because we were together all the time. We end up becoming DTR for a while. I did drop it and went back to mixing. My cousin Jimmy did stay with DTR and performed a lot with them. But breakdancing was it couldn't come at a better time, in that era, as kids needed something to do, and then when the TV shows came out, when the movies came out, Breaking and Beat Street, oh my gosh, it blew up. And being part of Floor Masters, even though it was such a short time, I keep those memories with me, and you've always been, kind of like in and out of my life, because we end up meeting up again later as DJs.
Yep. That was going to be my next slide. By the way, I don't know if you know, today's Shabadoo's birthday. Speaking of breaking, it's his birthday. Adolfo, happy birthday, by the way. So it's his birthday. Shabadoo from the breaking, obviously.
Yeah.
So so you get back into DJing. I'm DJing at Marlowe's at this time. And did you go in, is that where we met again after Marlowe's, or were
Yeah.
you doing mobiles? Okay.
No,
So,
it was
because I remember like it was, go ahead.
I didn't live again. That wasn't too far from where I lived. I lived on 23rd and Marshall Boulevard down Cermak. So Marlowe's was over there on Cermak and near, was that what? Washtenaw?
21st and Washtenaw. Correct.
Washtenaw. Yeah. So yeah, I heard about the parties going on there, and this is still it was still like what, break dancing era. But I think you had moved on from doing that, and as well as I did, got back into the DJ scene. And so not too many parties for young people in those days, but they started to develop. And Malos was one of them. And I remember coming in there, this really small, dark place. You pretty much needed like a flashlight to walk around in because it was so dark.
I'm sorry, 21st and Fairfield. Rich Morales corrected me. You're right. Okay. Absolutely right, Rich. Sorry about that. The brain cells.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, if anybody would know, right? Yeah, we need those out there to remind us. But yeah, and I remember I seen you behind the decks over there, and playing. I came up to you, and we shook hands. You were still spinning and stuff. So that was one of the times where we bumped into each other. And there was another time too. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but TKOs. You let me do a guest spot there once, and that was on Archer Road by near Western McKinley Park
Yes,
area.
yes. It was mostly house. It was mostly house music that you were doing, right? Or dance music,
Yeah,
basically. That was the
yeah.
dance
I think
music.
into the high energy style mixing because in that time too, all the dancers were out. People were loving all the high energy music, and then high energy is another platform, that took over. I think actually high energy was out before house music, right?
Yeah. I mean, in case people don't know what high energy is, high energy is just a dance music that was like 128 BPMs, or just a little quicker than the illusions, or like the funk that was playing. It was all high energy. You could Google high energy dance music, and it'll pop
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
sort of disco into other beats. Well, Sylvester, yeah, for one, you can say
Right.
Sylvester. His music kind of just went right into high energy. It was a style of disco, but we use it a lot for high energy. But yeah, I think
Even
yeah,
even Candy from Taps, her music, Burning Love, and all the stuff that she's saying
yes,
as well.
exactly. So yeah, yeah, I remember playing some of that there at TKO's. Another time where I maybe a year or two later, I ran into you at DJing over on Archer Avenue near, what is that? Near Bridgeport, and that was uh,
Quinn too.
Quintu.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
Quintu.
was the
You
other place.
you were talking about it too the other day about it. Yeah, you were there for a while already, and you I guess got another gig, and you were at that time you were moving on from Quinn too, and Roy Rangel was playing there, and then I came in and I took over, and it was right about that whole same year when you left Quinn too.
Right. I think that's where I went to. Well, it was TKOs. I went to Peramara Azteca. That's that was kind of the transition, because I was working with Tully, DJ Tully, doing and Rick Torres doing the Spanish rock nights over there at TKO/Peramara Azteca. That's it. They had changed names. But I could have swore that you were at Malos too, because didn't you do something alternative there or something on Sundays there when after I left Malos?
Um, no, it was Jesse De La Pena who was started doing the prologue. Oh,
Okay.
but you know what? I did throw two parties there in between. You are probably right. Right after
Because
Malos,
I
I
remember
think.
I remember your name. I mean your picture
Yeah,
on a flyer there. See, I remember
you're right.
something.
So yeah, before it became prologue, it was empty space, and I think it was me and Hugo and a couple of the other guys. Took advantage of that spot, and we threw a couple of parties there. It didn't work out too good because of the gangs, and then we ended up leaving it. But yeah, it was just a brief moment there, and then later on,
Okay.
Jesse De La Pena took over.
The reason why I remember that is because I remember, and quote me if I'm wrong, I remember the flyer having an orange color to it with black lettering and stuff like that. I think it was an orange flyer, and I just remember your picture on there, and I remember, and it was, I remember it was alternative. I remember,
Yeah,
that at that time it was alternative was starting to pick up really big with Depeche Mode and all that stuff, and I remember
yeah.
I could be wrong, but I thought it was a Sunday night you were doing there.
It's
I'm not sure if it was.
possible. It's possible,
I
but that was the late '80s.
Right.
Yeah, when we started doing that, I uh, nicknamed the place the Herb, URB, for urban. I don't know. It was just something that we had to come up with something. We were organizing this place, and we just called it the Herb or something
All
like
right.
that. And yeah, it worked out. Two, three times, and then the gangs around that area, as you know, was really infested, and so we didn't want to do anything around there.
Okay. So you went to Quintu, But I'm gonna remind you of another thing. I I could have swore you were part of the battle of the DJs that we had there.
At Quentin,
Yeah,
uh, I don't know. I don't
it
think
was
so.
during the time of Gabriel Rico Rodriguez, Nandi Max, and there was like six guys that battled, and we narrowed it down from the six to the three,
Did,
then
did
we
I
had the
win?
winner.
Did
No,
I?
it was not. It was Nandi Max. It was Nandi Max that won.
I'm just kidding. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't remember. I did a lot of drinking in that time. That the early '90s. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. I can't say if I was there or not. I'm sure I probably was. What do you remember leaving when you were leaving? Because that's the
I
year.
remember.
It was maybe like what, 90 when
I
you
want to
left
say it was 90. When I left, where was that?
Quinto.
Quinto? No, yeah, about 90. It was 90. Don was great. Don was great.
Oh
But
yeah,
I wanted to do something different. I remember that was the whole thing. And I was doing vinyl still at the time.
right.
And I was friends with Alex Perez, who was doing mostly the cumbias. I remember, and he was DJing also over at Prime 10. That's where I met Fernando, Fantasma. And then I remember that was our discussion because at the time I was friends with Telly and Rick Torres, and
Hmm.
I decided to go over there and do a Thursday night and we do Spanish rock night. Now, I didn't know anything about Spanish rock or anything like that, but I was
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, we'll do Spanish rock night, okay, but I had my vinyl and I was playing a little bit of the house freestyle and stuff like that, and then obviously they would take over the what's called and. That kind of was my first time becoming a promoter slash DJ.
Yeah.
But then you were at Malos with Roy, and what
Quinto.
happens?
Right.
Excuse me. Yeah, sorry, Quintu. What happens then? What happens with you at that point?
After that, then there was an opening spot at Vincey's back of the yards. Good old
Okay.
Vincey, over on 45th and was that Justine Street, I believe. I'm sure Rich will probably jump on and be like, uh, uh, it was up there, 45th Street. But yeah, Vincey's early 90s, 91, 92, 93. I was spinning at Vincey's. 45th and Justine, that's what I want to say. I'm pretty sure it's off of
Yeah,
Ashland.
it was like you had to search to find it.
Well, yeah, funny story.
Vincey's.
You mentioned Rick Torres. He was a good friend of mine too back in the 80s. We actually grew up together. I was always at his house. And I remember his little greased hair with his little ponytail. And he would wear his little white belt and shoes. It was a style then when we went to Curie. But Vincey's was not too far from Rick's house. Maybe Rick lived on
Okay.
maybe on Justine. That's why I remember because it was right around the block from there. But Vincey's, I did Vincey's for about 3 years there, and that place, it was an awesome little place. And again, the gangs later on, in that area, got the best of it, and I moved
What?
down there.
Who was DJing with you over at? Was it you by yourself?
Yeah, I actually had the weekends by myself. I was doing Friday, Saturdays, back to back every weekend, and then as you know, doing it every week, you kind of get burnt out. So then I started bringing in other guys that used to come out and hang out with me. Would be DJ Weto. I don't know if you heard of him or remember him. He used to do a couple of parties back in the days, and I had him would come in. He would fill out, maybe take a half the night, and I'd come and do the other half the night. I had another guy, DJ. What is his name? Puerto Rican Pep.
Okay.
Puerto Rican Pep, who actually took over after I had left from Vincey's. but yeah, those guys I had, working with me, and we would switch around you know, do an hour or to have them do guest spots.
But I also remember Mario, nonstop. You ever used to DJ there at Vinci's as well? Was that
He,
after?
he actually did a couple of like he would come in and do. We would advertise him, as coming in to do a show and then leave and whatnot. But then he ended up I think became a regular for a while, and that was probably that was right after I left.
That was okay. That's what I was wondering, because I remember a couple times I did stop by there, and I run into some former employees of Quintu or former employees of Malos, and we were going there. Obviously, there was another spot between that time was called Chunky's. If I remember, that was kind of everybody used to hang
Oh
out.
my God. Yeah.
So, I figured.
Again,
You got to mention that.
on Rockwell Street in the mall.
Yes,
And
yes.
nobody who went there was anybody, and we were all stuffed in this little restaurant bar, with a DJ in there. They never checked IDs, right?
I don't think so. It became a burger afterwards, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. But it would be a line to get in this place, and it only held maybe 60, 70 people, but it was a neighborhood place to go to.
Hey, us Latinos, we like crowds.
I remember,
you can't fit in there.
Once you walk in the door, you have to stay in line to get in, but then stay in line to go to the bathroom, and then stay in line to get to the bar, because everything was a line to get into, and it was just so small. But it was a great memory. Me and my cousin Jimmy, we used to go there every weekend too. I think we were 19, 20 years old. Getting into, they served alcohol, right?
Yeah, yes, they did. John, just to let you know, I didn't touch alcohol until I was 36 years old. So I wasn't part of that drinking scene. I was always about the music and the girls. I was where my focus was at. It wasn't so much as yes, there were girls. Yes, there was. So it was music and girls.
Yeah,
and,
I started around 17, 18.
Right. And then after Malos, where did that take you? Where did the DJing take you as far as going?
Well, Roy did. I think he was actually he was playing right when you were leaving, and so he did a couple of nights, and then I ended up taking over permanently for probably about a good year at Quintu. After Quintu, then it was Vinci's. And then Vinci's was from 91 to 93. And then in the 90s, New Wave was really big by that time. I did kind of jump ahead, but in 1989, I used to run a small place called the Taurus Lounge in Pilsen.
Okay.
And that's when New Wave was really big. And I used to have Hugo Mercado come and DJ. I had who else did I have? We had so many guest DJs, I can't even remember. But it was when Vicious Vic,
Yep.
he would come, although he would play a lot of house music, but we mixed it up. But it was when New Wave was really, really big. It was not too far from Benito Juarez.
Right. And then you went into, after that, how did you end up? So this is 90s. So I'm guessing you did something different in 95, 98. What did you?
And during that time, I kind of took a break. At the time, I was married and divorced and going through, those life changes. So I didn't do anything for a little while, and until the late 90s, I kind of came back into the scene. And there was a little place called Papa T's that my friend Alazar, who he was the manager of this bar where they also had pizza, Papa T's Pizza, in the area by Marquette Park. This was on California and what 67th, 68th in California, and so we went to this little bar to go check it out where Alazar was working at, and he's like, "So what do you think? You think we could throw some parties here?" It was a small place like Chunky's. We could probably fit about 60 people in there. So let me tell you something. We had after the night was over, we had about 200 people that came, in and out of that place, and we had a line out the door. I'm surprised we never had the cops come by.
Because they got pizzas.
The pizza was that good. Yeah. So we were throwing parties in this place every night, and the owner, he knew about it, but he didn't say much. Randy, he was a really cool guy. But yeah, we were throwing parties in this little bar, and this is the late 90s. This was actually like 98, 99. And again, I'm mixing there, and I had Roy Rangel. He came and he would DJ. We had other DJs, guest DJs, like of course Vicious Vic. We had him come in. Number of guest DJs at the time. After that, it was right around the millennium. I got a call from Mr. Martin Boogeyman Luna.
Okay.
He calls me up and he says, "Hey," well, no, he goes like this, "Hey," the way he talks, like a tough guy.
Yeah.
He says, "Hey, John, I got this club, remember the Prime and Tender?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." It later became like Kicker's Corral or something, some country bar. And he goes, "Well, it's called Studio 63 now, and they're looking for a DJ, full time. I believe Rick Flores was the DJ at the time, and Rick was going to do other things, so there was a spot." And I went to the Prime and Tender as a kid, on Sundays and stuff like any other teenager did in that area. But I didn't go to the Studio 63 when it just started out. So he gave me Nick's number and gave him a call, and I went and played one night to trial for Nick, and I did that for 11 years at Studio 63.
So that we're doing a part 2 with Martin Boogeyman, because we got up to that point with it, and obviously there's a lot to talk about. But so was Martin like the program director? Was he the head boss, or were you there? How did that work with you and Martin being there?
Me and Martin, we have history. We've known each other too for a very long time. I used to go to Prime and Tender when he used to be one of the DJs there. So I was still I was a new DJ, but I was also like I guess you could say like a groupie. I would stand by the DJ booths and see how they DJ and their styles and how they talk on the microphone, and then try to mimic that. So that's why I went to the clubs, and then those parties I would see what these guys would do. So I would go out there and hang out by Martin. We became friends. But yeah, and eventually I became part of Mixed Masters right at that time with Martin.
It was, but because I was busy doing my thing on the north side at that time, and
yes,
I could barely. Friday and Saturday was almost like I could never go out because I'm doing what I'm doing, busy and doing it. But I would go out sometimes on a Thursday night. I think that was Thursday night. You guys was your big night there, correct?
25-cent drinks.
Well, no, I'm talking. I think it stopped when it was when it became Studio 63. I don't think they had the. I'm talking about when you were there DJing.
Oh yeah. We were.
Or it was Wednesday. Was the Latin night there? Is that correct? Was
that came later? Okay. Yeah, when I started in the millennium, Latin wasn't. It didn't hit studio yet.
Okay.
So we were Thursday. I was DJing there Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, for a couple of years until the Latin aspect kicked in. I want to say around 2004, 2005. I think Spanish rock was coming out, and it was hitting hard. And we kind of tried some of that, but Nick wasn't a fan of Latin music, or like how the mayor says, the Latinx.
You talking about the Mayor Summit?
The mayor summit. But yeah, Spanish started coming up little by little, and I wasn't much of a Latin DJ per se, Latin music DJ, and we had found a guy that did that. He calls himself DJ Frausto.
Right.
And
okay.
we had Frausto take over Wednesday nights, and that developed, really big. Because it was new. Although it was new to us on the south side, it was big everywhere else on the north side. I remember going to Tanya's,
right.
When you wanted some Latin music on the north side. Great place. I used to love that place. But yeah, on the south side, we didn't have Latin clubs really.
Right. I mean, I remember that was I think Nick and I had a discussion at the moment it was starting to break, and he was asking me, what I think, and I told him that I think you're in the right position to do it, but I said, if you're thinking it was me doing it, I can't, because I'm busy doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday over on the north side, so there was no way I can split me. And I remember that was, Nick and I, we used to have really good discussions, and we talk business. We always talk about the scene, the business, and what's happening, what's the new thing and stuff like that. And I think we talked about the Spanish rock aspect of it as well. And he was always, I think that's one of the true things to any of the club owners, Ed Tunney, Ruben Pazmino, all these guys. They kind of asked me these questions, and I was telling the truth. I wouldn't be like, no, I don't want you to do it because you might be successful better than me. No, I'll tell people very honestly where this scene is and where, what advantages it has on the north side compared to the south side. What are your obstacles? And I think that's where Nick and I had that discussion that we talked about it,
Yeah.
And a couple of times he would come by Tuesday night boxing. I remember he was there sometimes. I remember he would, come by Tropicana,
Yeah.
or Infinity. I remember him coming in, and to see his face of all places. Yeah. I'm like, hey,
Well, I used to go there too, and I would watch Macho fight.
Yeah, that was just
Macho.
that was an incredible. That's a whole different area. Yeah. So you're playing at Prime and Tender. And
Studio 63, yeah.
Oh, Studio 63. I'm sorry, Studio 63. Thank you for clarifying that. You're there now. You're married already, right? Or you said you got divorced, and then you're into it. 6 years, you said? How many years?
Yeah, it was already like 2004, 2005 when we started introducing the Spanish part of that. And Wednesday started taking over. Well, actually, every night was busy, but our Thursdays started to die out. So we were having Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, which worked out better for me because I felt like I was getting burnt out after all those years doing every weekend. Although we had occasional DJ guest spots under Nick's supervision because he didn't let everybody DJ there. But Wednesdays drew a line out the door, and it became really big. And then I started saying to myself, you got to learn this. You have to, as a DJ, and you want to, expand your horizons. You have to learn different genres. And I started, watching Frausto play and getting the names of the songs that he would have, and Suavemente, and then music is universal. So if it has a beat, now I say if it has a beat, I can play it. But at the time, I had to master it and learn it. And here, I don't even know Spanish, but I'm learning how the song goes and how the breaks go, and then you just later edit, and then you create your own breaks on there. So I learned that too, just by hanging around Frausto when he was doing his Wednesday nights. But you know what? I wanted to pause back and jump back for a minute because I had skipped a whole era in a very important part of my life too. Because
Okay, go ahead.
every DJ that comes on, has been tied to the radio station 90.5 FM, and before it was 90.5 FM, it was called WCYC. And with WCYC, at the time, and this is 1982, because I remember I used to call in all the time, and me and my sister would be calling in. Mario Reyes would be answering the phone, and he already knew my voice by that time. We would be doing dedications over the phone and stuff, and he would be like, "You guys again," and we would have Miguel Rodriguez also there answering the phone, and Tom Ramos and Magic Juan. So I got to know these guys by voice, and I found out where the boys club was located at. And I stalked these guys and actually went to the boys club and turned in one of my cassettes. And then after that, it was I was on a weekly basis with WCYC. So I would meet up with Magic Juan and Tom Ramos and Miguel and handle my cassettes. And I wonder where those cassettes are. I'm sure they're, yeah.
Well, I did not know you were on CYC. Honestly, I did not know that. I
Yeah.
wonder if a lot of people probably never knew. But how long did that last? How long was that era that you were doing the cassettes?
And that was like by that time that was 1983, because then I already had mastered the blending part of mixing, and I was confident of myself, and I was making cassettes. And so that was around 83 when I would go there, and 82, 83 give my cassettes to Tom and Miguel, and so I was dominating Six and all those guys. And yeah, a little backstory. Somebody, some of them guys were too young to know I was mixing while they were, still in grammar school.
Okay, all right. No, that's interesting because I never knew that. I hope Harv is listening. Usually is. Harv Roman.
I'm sure Harv can vouch for me too. Back then in the early 80s, and Mario Reyes and and Miguel. I mean, if you guys got my cassettes, you can give them back, okay, guys? I'd love to hear them. I'm sure there's a bunch of bloopers on there, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that was just a little. I wanted to throw it out there because like everybody, was part of CYC, and I was part of it too in a sense. I wasn't, like a whole DJ group thing, but yeah, they would play my cassettes on there, and that was awesome.
Well, that's curious. And maybe you can tell me a little bit more of that era, because did they ask DJs to drop off cassettes, or was it just because you bugged the shit out of them that they said, okay, we'll play your cassette?
Yeah, I think I called them enough to annoy them. But I asked, I was like, hey, how can I, have my mixes on here, and they said, well, you got to talk to Kenny, Kenny Jason. And, and then if he says, okay, then, it'll be okay. And Kenny, jumping back 1982, I was a freshman at Harrison High School, which is now called Salcedo. But that year it closed in 1983. But in 82, Kenny Jason was my what do you call that? He was the DJ for our homecoming,
Okay.
and that's where I got to meet Kenny. But it was later. Yeah, I did I went back to the boys club, talked to Kenny, and he's like, yeah, sure, let's listen to what you got. And he liked it enough and said, yeah, let him play the cassettes, So yeah, I would go up there and be hanging out with Magic Juan and Tom, and Miguel. And
so that now my next question is, did you ever do any of the mixtapes? Did you do any of that as well?
I didn't work in the station. No, I left it up to them. But
No, I'm talking about mixtapes, selling mixtapes in the mixtape shops.
Oh, you know what? No, I didn't. I always wanted to, although I had cassettes and I just made them and then gave them out. And I still have a stack of them too that I found in my mother's basement, after like 20 years. Uh, and but I wouldn't sell those. No, there's a lot of practice tapes. That's what they were. They were practice tapes. You know, but just like any other DJ, I want to give props to my mom who actually bought me my first turntables, and I guess I broke her house turntables, but yeah, she went out and bought me equipment, and then that was history right there. Just like any other DJ has that same story. The mom, thanks to the mom, happy Mom's Day. Thank you, Mom. But I just wanted to say that, and haven't been, I haven't, I've been mixing ever since. This is what I'm 52 now. Started when I was 14. Do the math, you know.
Right, right. No, it's a good era. um, so Prime and Tender, Studio 63. Sorry, Studio 63. You're DJing there. What happens next with you after this? So jump forward to Studio 63.
So during Studio 63, little by little, the years were going. I was there already 11 years. I telling Nick, I'm getting tired. I need to, take a break and get some other DJs. We brought in another DJ, DJ Strike It Up, who then started doing Fridays, and I started doing Saturdays. Slowly, I worked my way out of there. Wednesday nights, we brought in DJ Abel, who moved in, and he was working with Frosto, and they were switching nights. And then later they end up, pretty much taking over Studio 63 after I had moved on in 2011. Took a short break after that, and went back to just doing a lot of mobile events. It was really big in that time. And as you know, it was in demand. DJs were really big in 2005, 6, 7, and beyond, with doing mobile events. The wedding DJ I turned into.
Oh, well, that was going to say that became its own entity in this industry, and because that's where the money was at.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, okay, and now we're in 2020, but what do you feel about now, because of what's going on with the epidemic? We're all kind of locked in here. Have you did a lot of live streaming because of this?
I try not to do a lot, and well, for one, my schedule kind of I'm an essential worker, so I am busy working. I get to go to work, so that kind of eats up my time. As much as I would love to DJ every day, if I had a choice, and if I was rich, yeah, I'd probably be in my I would probably be mixing live every day. But I could do it every week, but I choose not to. So I go every other Sunday, and now I'm calling it Social Sundays, which I'll be out this Sunday on the 17th if you guys are home, I'm sure, watching me. But so I do every other Sunday, and probably at least 2 hours. Sometimes I'll even reappear and do it again because I'm still in the mood to play. But yeah, I do my share, and I give props out to all the DJs out there that are online. And I know some of them are getting a bad rep that why are they on there every day and stuff. Well, some of us don't have shit to do, and if a painter paints, a DJ DJs, it's just what we do. We feel the music, we love the music, and music is universal. And if you play it, the people will come and they'll listen. It takes you away, as you know, being a DJ, it puts us in a trance, and we just go into our own thing. And that's kind of the same thing when you're sitting on the other side listening to the music. You want to forget about your problems. You want to forget about everything that's going on right now. So, all the DJs that are doing their live sets, I give them props, and, keep on doing it. Yeah, Facebook will take you down, but you know what? Don't complain about it and, get mad. Okay, press start and do it again.
Right.
Just like Martin said the other day, right? He said that yesterday.
Yeah, he did. Um, so this is 2010 now. What happens after 2010 with you as far as DJing? You're doing your mobile gigs, and that's taking off big. I'm guessing that's gotten really really big for you.
Yeah, I started doing a lot of events, a lot of weddings and cotillions, um, high school parties. I started to become, I felt, now in then 2011, let me see, I was, let's say, okay, I was in my early 40s. I felt like I was a little too old to be doing graduations and stuff like that, because the music was changing for the young people. They don't listen to what we listen to, and I'm old school. We're all old school. And the parents are hiring, my friends are hiring me to play for their kids, their graduations and whatnot. But when you get there, they want to start hearing hip hop um, and all this other type of booty style music and stuff that I just wasn't comfortable playing. I just wanted to play old school. So I would be very particular on who would hire me, and I would make that a deal like, okay, this is what I play, and I don't go into those other type of genres. So I by that time I already mastered Spanish, so I knew how to play cumbias and salsa and merengue. Tell me what they say, I don't know. What does suavemente mean? I don't know. Smooth. I don't know Spanish. Yeah, I'm Mexican. What kind of Mexican are you? I'm the one that's born here in Chicago. My parents didn't speak Spanish, growing up. My mom, my mom was number 15 out of 16 kids. So by the time my grandmother got to her, she didn't even talk Spanish anymore. My grandmother knew English. So by the time it got to me, yeah, didn't know.
No,
But
I feel you, man. I feel you. I'm the same way.
yeah,
But
so
but but I went into the Spanish market full stream and stuff like
you did, and
that.
I was
So
like, yeah, I was thinking, wait, what is it, Angelo? I never even asked him. Is he Hispanic? I mean, yeah, he's Hispanic, or is he Puerto Rican, or is he mixed, or what's the answer? What?
well,
Yes.
no, okay. So I've said this story before, and if it wasn't through the interviews, when I was 11 years old, I used to live with my great grandfather. My great grandfather was from Jalisco, and that at that moment at 11 years old, I remember my grandmother, who I didn't really know. She lived in Texas, El Paso, Texas. And
Okay.
I was talking about the Mexican culture. And my grandmother says, no, you got to talk to your grandfather. We're not from Mexico. And I go, what do you mean? He was born in Jalisco. He goes, talk to him. So 11 years old. I said, Grandpa, I says, your grandma is telling me my great grandfather. He says, no, we're from Spain. My father was a captain of a ship from Spain. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, oh, we're so growing up, I used to tell people all the time in the neighborhood that I'm Spanish and Mexican. Tell that to a Mexican, a full-blooded Mexican, or you're like, you're in denial, like, and then I'm sorry about my, so I don't know if you were seeing, I posted about in 2017, I did the 23andMe, and I posted up the results, and 52% Spaniard,
There you go.
33% Native American, which is the Mexican side, and then 12% whatever, different things, little different things, 1% there, 2% there. But then and I say, and then I did, following 3 months after that, I did a Century DNA. And one of the cool things is that my great uncle, not the one who just passed away, but the younger great uncle I have, he gave me my great grandfather's baptism record.
Mm.
Yep. The five Prieto brothers came from Spain, and we settled in the Gulf of Mexico. That's where they were. They were tobacco merchants, and hence they had my grandfather, who was born in Jalisco, my great grandfather, and then my great grandfather came here to Chicago, and then he raised my dad, not speaking Spanish at all. So hence, so I'm Spanish and Mexican. Mom's
Oh,
side Mexican, dad's side Spaniard.
join the club. Yeah, my mother took the DNA test thing too, and sure thing. Spaniard came up, American Indian came up. You know, we all are part of that, you know, culture. Um, so, but yeah, we didn't speak Spanish in the house growing up. My sisters, they actually know Spanish because they got to spend some time living with my grandparents in San Antonio. And they came back, and my sister, Chris, she's very fluent. You know, it just like glued on her. You know, she just knew how to have a whole conversation. So, but me, no. Uh, my wife, she's just like me. We're Americans, I'm Mexican Americans, and we don't really know Spanish. So when people start talking to us in Spanish, you know, we kind of like, oh yeah, see. But we can order tacos. I'll tell you that. We can order
Okay. I honestly, hey, we could ask where the bathroom's at. Yes, those are essentials.
Yeah, it's more important to know the tacos. It's a how to
Well,
say, you know.
well, just to be clear about how the Spanish music was for me, or should I say the Latin music, it was only because when I'm the only child with my mom, who obviously worked on the weekends, worked at Evans downtown, and Saturday was a big Evans day, you know, Saturday and sometimes Sundays. And so my grandmother used to take care of us, and my poor grandmother, they were literally me and five other cousins that she would take care of. You know, so all the cousins stayed together, and she did her best to keep us in line. But I remember the reason why I got into Spanish music or like Spanish music is that the room that I used to sleep in had a window in the inner hallway, and upstairs was a Puerto Rican family that used to do cleaning day for Saturday, you know. And she opened up all the windows and play all Eddie Santiago, Gran Combo, all the classic Fania,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I used to wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning, but that music is playing from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning when I wake up. And little did I know, I was subconsciously hearing it. I was hearing those songs. So as I got a little older, I began, hey, I like that. I know that song. Why do I know those words? I mean, I didn't know what it was saying, but I remember hearing the song. So it became
Mhm.
very familiar. And that basically became my love for salsa merengue because I heard it growing up as a kid, you know, and that's why I got into the Latin music, because honestly, I didn't know anything until the day Alex Perez Dracula showed me the CD player, the Pioneer 502. And I had my collection of salsa and merengue, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna make a mixtape," and that's how this all the explosion of the Latin thing here for mixed salsa. You know, and that
Right.
was what 1999, 2000. I think that's when that happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was
Spanish
that was
in late '90s. Yeah, coming up.
that was it. That was the what you call it. And I think I can honestly say that it created a bridge, and we know there was this thing in Chicago that you couldn't pass Madison Avenue for a lot of people. If you're a South Sider, you stay South Side. If you're a North Sider, you stay North Side. You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
it was that. You know, we would joke about, oh, you get a nosebleed if you go past Madison Avenue, and vice versa, because that those crowds would not mix. It would not
Yeah.
be very. It would you know, from the things that Pablo was doing on the north side was strictly north side, and things like what Prime and Thunder, Studio 63, Quintu, and all this stuff on the south side, it had that separation. And I
Yeah.
think when I did this mixtape, I honestly believe that was the first time I seen a crossover. And all of a sudden it was, oh, guess what? Salsa merengue is okay on the Etchcon. And then it's hearing alternative music and stuff on the north side and doing the old school and stuff like that. The high energy stuff was already there, but it was like now they had let's say they had a commonality they can kind of cross over with. And I think that's what happened in 2000. I think that's when it
Yeah.
changed over.
Wasn't that when you started? Was that V5?
No, I didn't start V5. I was Cuatro
Oh,
Fantásticos.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to get
Yeah.
that mixed up. I know it was
Yeah,
yeah.
Frank Monroe was doing already the rock pop alternativo events.
Right.
And that was the span, and he was technically really mostly downtown, because that was what that whole scene was downtown. But he was doing 720, if you remember that. And then he went into Convent, and that became kind of north side, and Convent was right across from Saceros. So it kind of had its little inner battle between that crowd that was the Spanish rock crowd, and then the Saceros, which was all salsa music and stuff like that. And everybody was trying to figure out how to do it together.
Yeah.
And clearly that kept separated. So when you went to Studio 63, and that explosion, or the Latin explosion, I call it, into the nightclubs, then everybody was like, oh, we need to do a Latin night. That was kind of even club owners that didn't want to do Latin nights were kind of forced to do Latin nights.
And
I
yeah,
remember,
I'll
go
say
ahead.
if Nick and Jerry allowed Latin night, yeah, then if you can convince them to, then you can convince anybody.
Well, and that's what I said. I remember Nick having that conversation with me, because he was afraid. And let's be honest with you, when you come to a Latin night, the first thing, and nothing derogative in that sense, but I understood where they're coming from, because he was afraid that it was going to get so, because that crowd that was over at Prime and Tender or Studio 63, and I say Prime and Tender, Studio 63, was mixed. It was Italian, Greek. It was, it wasn't just Latin people. It was everybody there. And what he was afraid of, it becoming so Latin night that it would chase away his normal crowd,
Sure.
or chase away his, and hence what happened at Green Dolphin. You get a bad element in there, and then all of a sudden the city of Chicago or the city of Summit would have closed them down. And I
Yeah.
understood the concerns of a lot of owners,
Yeah,
because
you're right.
it wasn't so much as the Latin events were bad. It just had a stigma that maybe if we have a wrong crowd come in, it would chase away our regular crowd. And that was always the discussion. And I knew he was very careful on talking to me about it, because I would tell him, look we're fine. We're doing Latin nights. And a perfect example, Tuesday nights over at Alhambra. Here we have 500 people, and we have one security in a salsa night. So what does that tell you?
Yeah,
It's
I
safe.
I think I contacted you for a guest spot at that place, once or twice, but I know you're a busy guy and you got all these other DJs, and I was standing in line waiting, but I'm like, I know how to play Spanish now. I can master bachata now, and but yeah,
Well,
I want to.
I know I've had Abel actually DJ for me a couple of times there and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Abel, hope he's feeling better. I know he was he announced he was sick and stuff like that, so hope he's feeling better. But
yeah.
I had George Lamont there. I don't know if you've seen that. I brought George Lamont to do my full salsa set this
Yes.
past year,
Yeah,
2019, and that
the
was
video.
just to give you a concept or ideal about that, is that I knew that freestyle, let's be honest with you, freestyle was huge on the South Side. I mean, that's huge. And then when they did the Cuban Fest, and I seen them doing the freestyle night per se, I was like, George, because George and I have known each other for a long time, and that was my
You call him George
Uh,
G. Yo, G.
And I said, I want you to do a full salsa. And he hadn't done a salsa event or salsa full salsa for 14 years. It's been that long. But I think that's where it goes full circle, in a sense, what you were talking about with Studio 63 and doing Latin music and I think this is all about what we do. And I said it through the interviews, you said it as well. We all love music.
Mhm.
And music is what sets us free and stuff like that. Whether you're playing house, freestyle, dance, funk, salsa, merengue, bachata, reggaeton, it's
New wave.
all music for us. New wave. I mean, we could, man. There's so many subgenres, and as as
Yeah.
Martin said, jungles or whatever. But I mean, it's music, and that's what that's
Sure.
what I think we as DJs, we love to do, and we love to have. I think we love the appreciation that people give us when we play something. Because I
Yeah,
know when you live stream or anybody live stream, you got the comments. Oh my God, I remember. Oh yeah, you bring back memories and stuff like that. And it's about
yeah.
having a good time, and that's what we want.
we 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 feed off of that energy, and and it's just like if they were out there dancing, when we see the crowd start to move up on the dance floor, we start to get this energy that they're sending us, and we almost feel like invincible, and we start to play better and faster, and tricks, and you challenge yourself. It changes you become a whole different person, while you're up there on stage, playing for people. And one thing about being a DJ is to be a good DJ, to be a great DJ, is to try to master all the genres. If you can, even if you don't play it, know it, because it's challenging. Test yourself, and play around with music. New music is like a toy to us, right? When you get some new music, and or download some new music and new beats, somebody came out with a new record, like when we used to go to hot jams and buy that new record, go home, and how am I going to play this and practice it? It's like a new toy. It's like a kid with a new
Right.
toy, you know? And I always encourage that when someone is starting out being a DJ, learn everything you can about the genres, and challenge yourself, because that's what makes you a better DJ and more enticing to somebody who wants to hire you. You can't just be stuck on one thing. Although I'm house head, but I'm also a new waver, and I love both. And I can't say which one I love the most, but I love them the same. And those are my choices of music. But when it comes to everything else, you got to learn it. Disco is a favorite thing of mine too. I love to play, you know, and deep house music is my other passion. Check out my Mixcloud. Throwing that out
Right.
there.
Make sure you put the links in there.
I'm gonna start.
Before the pandemic, what were you doing? What were you doing as a DJ gig? What were you doing? Were you still doing the mobiles, or were you doing clubs, or what were you doing at that point?
So most recently, yeah, I was doing parties out here in Berwyn, working at Time After Time in Cicero, um, doing guest spots there, but mostly working. So juggling it, not playing as much these days. I don't really do too many private events anymore. No, like the weddings or those gigs anymore. They just, I think I'm past that now. Where I don't know. It's I guess it's the carrying of the equipment. Preparing for a wedding, they give you a whole list, and then you think as a DJ, you've been a DJ over 35 years, you would have every song in the world, but they always find a way to give some music that you don't have, and they want you to play it. And then, so, I kind of backed away from doing those kind of events. But yeah, occasional party here and there in Berwyn, but not much these days. I did want to go take a quick step back too. I missed out a 2000 millennium, somewhere right around the millennium, when I met Mike Huerta. Not met him,
Okay.
because I actually knew him from when him and Rich used to play at the BA, Blessed Agnes. My mom used to drop us off, me and my sisters, and we would go to the dance there, and it was like the late 70s or something like that, or early 80s.
Right.
And but I started hanging out at this bar called Tequila and Chicas, and where this guy Joel, who used to have these amazing parties in this little place again, but that was like right around the era when I started to get away from records, and actually Mike Huerta was introducing me to CDs, and so this is right
Okay.
around the new millennium. And he was playing there a lot, and then he had me come in, fill in nights when he, had to do something or had a gig or something like. So I would start taking over. But yeah, I bought my first CD players right around that time when I met Mike. Which,
I,
hey, Mike, I just want to say I got the T-shirts. They came in the mail.
so when you say new millennium, and I know we're going a little over time, and that's fine. Uh, I think that transition happened 2000 to 2005. I think that's where most DJs kind of did that transition because we didn't have to carry, I mean, let's face it, carrying crates of records as opposed to carrying a laptop was, or should we say CDs, I'm sorry, CDs. That was a lot easier, and for us DJs, we create all the hits on one CD. We'll put the tracks in there and stuff like that. So that helped out. Instead of carrying all the crates of records, that helped a lot.
I still love CDs. It's hard to break away from that. Now I'm more on you. I bought a new Pioneer that uses USB, and maybe next year I'll go to laptop, but I haven't gotten there yet. I'm very slow moving forward, transitioning from one thing. It was really hard to leave records, and now it's kind of hard to leave CDs, but I still do it. I use CDs or
you're gonna hear tons of people telling you it is such a wow factor when you're going into laptops. Trust me, because I kind of did the same thing. And if I don't know if I told you, but at the CDs I stopped DJing, and I already knew the laptop was there, and even I didn't even want to do the laptop for a while. It was always CDs, and I still got bags of the CDs that I have. So I know it's tough.
I'll get there eventually. I've had a couple of my friends, try to sell me laptops or their refurbished laptops and stuff, and I'm not ready for that yet. I'll use it to download my music, but I'm not there yet. I'm fine. The crowd, when they hear me play, they're not, they don't care how what I'm using to play, as long as it sounds good to them. So
196,000 files. It's 196,000 files. Hey, no kidding.
yeah,
Look at that.
yeah. I have one too. I have a box too, but yeah, I just take music out or put it back in, and that's my safety net in case lose my USB or something like that, but
I know.
but yeah, what a difference from when we had crates. I remember going to Tequila Chica, taking my crates. Mike Huerta was already using CDs, so I'm like, well, how am I gonna? Because they wanted me to come and do a guest spot, so I brought my own little table and turntables, and was my crates of records, and played with that until Mike convinced me to move over to CD.
Yep.
So
and I know we talked about this about the what program are you using? What you say no?
Yeah, my program's my USB now. That I don't have programs.
Right.
Surround. I don't do all those fancy name things. Yeah, I just I use that and good old YouTube to download. That's my secret.
All right, cool.
And edit.
Cool.
A lot of editing.
So, the hour has gone. I know that I wish we could talk more.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2.
I hope you had fun. I know it goes quick, like with everybody else and stuff like that. Any last words you want to say to anybody out there? I mean, what I know Rich is on there, Barbara, there's Rich Morales is on here as well. You'll see a bunch of the comments and stuff like
Sure.
that. Anything
Yeah.
to say closing?
Well, first of all, what you're doing is awesome. It gives everybody a chance to get to know us a little bit more. All the DJs that they hire for their high school parties in the past or their weddings in the past, you get to see a little more backstory of everybody, and just kind of get to know us. And I applaud you for doing that. This is an awesome outlet. Gives us a chance to communicate and still, I guess, be a part. But thanks everybody for tuning in and watching. Look out for my Facebook Live, and look on Mixcloud. You could look under JH Mixes. That's how you locate me on Mixcloud. I have about 30 mixes on there. I have Spanish on there too. How about that? I do want to give a shout out to first and foremost, my wife, Mercedes, who always allows me that free time to DJ and, okay, yes, let's go to the club. And she gets mad when I book myself for a party and I don't quite discuss it with her, but I said, hey, babe, yeah, I'm DJing this weekend. So yeah, she'll get mad, but then you know what? I got to go find something to wear. But yeah, I want to just say thanks to her for mostly putting up with me and my hobby and being a DJ. It's rough at times. Deal with it, because this is part of me. It's part of my life, and I love music. I love music, So does she. She dances to it when I'm over there mixing. But shout out to my mom who was watching out there, my sister Christina. And everybody out there. There's a couple of DJ names I just wanted to throw out there real quick. Miguel Rodriguez, thank you. You've been a long time old friend. Tom Ramos, Magic Juan, you, Angelo. We've been in and out of our lives, doing our own thing and stuff like that. I'm sure once this is all over, you're gonna hire me to do a set somewhere, wherever you're at on the north side. I'm positive.
I'm mostly downtown now. I'm mostly downtown now. Honestly, I'm mostly downtown. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
I could go downtown. I know how to play salsa. Yeah, I'll put on my floor master, suit and everything. We'll do a whole flashback thing.
Cool.
The Huerta brothers.
All right, guys.
But
Yep.
Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Don't hang up. Don't hang up yet. All right, guys. Thank you. That was the front show. And don't forget, tomorrow we do it again, 8 o'clock. And I'll see you guys. Thank you.